Aloha! You are listening to KNKR LP 96.1 FM Kohala.
Stress free. That's all I want to be.
Aloha! It is about 3:04 p.m. on November 19th, 2025. And it is a beautiful day, and you are listening to Intuitive Talk Story. I'm your host, Michál Anna, and welcome. I'm so excited today to have a very special guest with me today, my dear mama, who is amazing, but she's here as not just my mother, but as an iridologist, a health practitioner, a nutritionist, an herbalist, and we are going to get down and talk about health and all sorts of fun things today. So it's going to be a really informative hour. So we're going to dig in and get ready to absorb. So with the spirit of Intuitive Talk Story, let's just take a moment before I welcome my mama and give it over to her. And we're just going to take a minute and take a breath together. So let's breathe. Drop into our center. And just be present to listen with our heart and mind in coherence, to speak with our heart and mind in coherence, for the highest good of all beings, connected and grounded, connected to our source, and ready to engage in this time we have together. In gratitude, Mahalo nui ke Akua, and so it is. So welcome, Mama Karen Alvarado.
Thank you so much for inviting me. That's very special. I really appreciate you being willing to have your mother on the radio with you.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know I love you, Mama, and you are just so darn talented and such an incredible practitioner, and folks need to know about this amazing work. So tell us a little bit about what you do and how you got into it.
Well, let me get into it as far as my background goes. For me personally, I got into it due to my own health. So by the time in my 20s, early 30s, I'm already experiencing some major health issues. And that's the thing that brought me to, somebody that was a friend of mine doing what I do. And she changed my life. I actually was, if you can believe this, a yeast candida baby. What does that mean? It means that somebody that has too much candida or yeast in their bodies, which could be from, the signs would be like with my mom, yeast infections and urinary tract infections, those kinds of things. She actually had those things going on when I was born. So coming down the birth canal, you see, I'm swallowing that kind of yeast that went into my body early on, which is why I started experiencing symptoms very early. So that was the main reason, and the symptoms were, for me, major sinus infections every year, and constipation, bowel issues, weight gain, even some acne, like skin blemishes, acne kind of things. So once I went to go see my friend in my mid-30s, she put me on a detox program and changed my diet. And I'm telling you, within months, I was like a different person. People were asking me, what are you doing? What are you doing? Well, by this time, I'd memorized her book that she gave me, and I knew so much. And I'd go blah, 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 go on and on and on, tell people what I was doing, which, anybody that was with me sort of got a little tired of hearing that. Everywhere we go, people want to know why you lost weight and you look so beautiful now. Oh, yeah, my skin was not so beautiful. It was dehydrated, and I really didn't have that same glow about me I should have in my 30s. So that was my beginning. That's when I changed my life in terms of diet, nutrition, food. And I have to tell you, back in the day, which I'm 73 now, healthy 73-year-old woman, there were no alternatives for gluten-free.
Right.
What am I going to do for gluten-free? Nothing. You just go off of it. What about healthy cheeses? Well, there weren't really any healthy cheeses, so no cheese. So being Hispanic and being raised with cheeses and burritos and pork green chili, all gone. There goes the heritage cultural things, things that people, oh, that's in my heritage, in my culture. Well, I can relate. That's was also damaging my health.
So you got into it, but what is it exactly you do? So tell us a little bit. What is iridology?
Okay, so many years later, I finally was able to sell and get out of the corporate world and sell my business. And so at 45-ish, I went back to school to learn, first and foremost, all the things related to health, diet, nutrition, and food. Okay, so that's the nutritional piece, and we'll get into that more. But then I took on the task of learning iridology. And a lot of people don't want to do that because it takes a long time before you really get it. You got to read and look at a lot of eyes before you really feel like you know what you're doing.
Right.
And then once you have the information, what are you going to do with it? That's why I took the herbal classes, the nutritional classes, to decipher, once I look at the eye, what goes on. And the eye is amazing. It's a map to your whole body.
Yeah, so audience out there, my mama has been my doctor since I was 24, since she came to the island, and she had a thriving practice down in Kona, Kona Rejuvenation Center, for how many years?
About 10 years.
10 years. And that was, pre-recession. But yeah, the work, so when you say it's similar, reflecting on, it takes a lot of bodies, a lot of eyes until you really feel that confidence. And so you've got that mastery of hours put in this field of iridology, and have put the time in and really looking at a lot of different eyes. So that's one. So tell us a little bit about what that is. Like, how does it work?
Well, which is really cool. We read the eye like a clock, from all the way around from 1 o'clock back to 12 in terms of where all the different organs are placed, so I can see what's going on with each organ, the amount of weakness or degeneration that's happening in the organ, which is very cool. You can also see the skin and how well the skin is eliminating toxins, because the skin's our largest eliminative organ. That's really important. And then you can see what's going on with the lymphatic system. But most importantly, I like to always start with the intestinal tract. So I believe, as an iridologist, I was taught this 25 plus years ago, life and death begins in the gut. But we live and die at the cellular level. So when I say life and death begins in the gut, what most people don't understand is your mood is affected by your gut health. Your immune system is affected by your gut health. And so why is that? Well, about 80% of what we call receptor sites that are managing that aspect, your memory, your moods, your health, how you feel about life. So that is in your gut. And when I say gut, I mean the intestinal system, not the stomach. Same thing with your immune system. So if you're always getting sick and things are, not working well for you and you're having dis-ease happening, well, we start with the gut. And when I start detoxifying the gut, getting people, to make it simple, pooping.
Gotta get them pooping.
2 to 3 times a day, and having them nice and fabulous, like someone like the health of my daughter. Oh my gosh.
Yes. Okay. So, audience out there, we talk about poop, and at dinner time, we talk about poop very nonchalantly all the time. And honestly, one time well, what happened is she's my mom. And so, one time I didn't flush the toilet. She was at my house and she saw the poop, and she's like, "Oh my God, you poop like a man." I'm like, "What does that mean? I poop like a man?" She's like, "It's a full bowl. Like, that's really healthy poop." And so for anybody out there, are you pooping a bowl full? I mean, that's really like, is your digestive system operating? Is it like coming out? Is everything, and I had to say, a good thing I'm secure about myself when I say pooping like a man. Anyway, but you want to have these super healthy poops, and I'm super regular, and I do obviously have a great doctor, and I do what I'm told. I kind of do my program, and I'm heavy on the powders, nutritions, and things to help support good poop.
That's where it starts. And by the way, I'm not an actual doctor. But
you're still my doctor.
A doctor of health, you might say. Yeah. Okay. So on that note,
Well,
yeah.
you are, I want to say this as far as like where we go in our mind's eye. She's not an MD in the Western sense, but she is a doctor of health in that you are the person who is doctoring me, and you're a nutritionist, iridologist, herbalist. So those are if you go with the Western qualifications.
Exactly. I do use chemistry as the basis for my health practice, and so I'll get into that a little bit. But going back, I can actually see the health of the intestinal system, large and small intestine, in the iris, which is the main area I start in and really take a look at and, spend time talking about that in my sessions with people. Like, how often are you pooping? What's the color? Do they sink? Do they,
You really get into poopology,
Yeah.
folks. So get intimate about what's coming out of you is what you're putting in, right? So are you full of it? What's going on? We like to joke about these things.
Yeah. I usually say if you have a crappy mood, you must have a crappy intestinal system. So now what makes it healthy? I'll tell you what makes it healthy is plants, hydration. That's the most important thing. Are you getting enough fluids? Are you eating the kinds of foods that don't dehydrate your intestinal system, such as wheat, white? Everything white comes off the plate. So those things dehydrate your colon, as do other things like coffee and alcohol and all the acidic foods that I can talk about too. And so we want to hydrate our intestinal system with lots of plants, lots of fruits, and ensuring that you're getting at least what I say 50% of your body weight in ounces in throughout the day. Don't try and get it all in the first 2 hours of the day. That's got to be throughout the day. We don't want you just peeing it out. So we look at that, that gut. And now it's a big thing, the microbiome.
Well, we distribute these superfoods, and I have to say that we have a product where we clean out the microbiome, removing the glyphosate, and that can't be cooked or washed out of your food. So when you use this product, oh my gosh, it's amazing, and you see it come out of your poop. I mean, it's crazy, and it repairs the microbiome because it's the glyphosate, which is what's in Roundup, is literally creating holes in our guts, which is why most people are even going gluten-free and intolerant of such and such in the first place. Although one thing I'd love for you to speak a little about, because you brought up ethnic foods and this and that. One thing, working with the kids in the schools, in our own heritage, etc., knowing that lactose does not really work for Hawaiian kids.
Okay, good point.
So let's talk about that.
So when we look at the gut, we talk about, we get into, are you lactose intolerant? Are you gluten intolerant? Those are the two main areas that people have problems with. So they might have a spastic colon, an irritable bowel. They may have colitis. They may have, the celiacs, even, something more devastating. And then that's when they finally get to the point where they're really conscientious of what they put in their mouth. Anybody that's gluten intolerant, they're just going to be miserable if they eat any gluten at all for days. And of course, people that have more severe issues for sure are very conscientious what they put in their body. I like to get to the point where we don't have to get to that stage so badly that it really ruins your whole life, going forward. So the earlier you start with really looking at that health of the gut, the happier your body, your life is going to be. And I'm just so blessed I got started in my mid-30s.
Mm-hmm. And it's not too late if you're not in your mid-30s.
Right.
At the same time.
Absolutely.
And and that kind of, like, what are some of the things that you see are real? Because, we have a lot of things in our town that I would just, what are some reversible things that you think are real addressable?
Okay, so let's talk about disease. Is that you're referring to? Diseases?
Yeah, maybe dis-ease. Oh, and we didn't actually talk about the lactose. Maybe hit that first.
Mm-hmm. Okay, with lactose, of course, that means you're not doing dairy. And unfortunately, over the years, like my mom says, well, I did dairy and I did bread and I did this. And I said, well, Mom, you grew up in a different generation, a different time. Everything was so different back then. It was pure. It was cleaner. I spent 5 weeks in Italy, and I ate everything, cheese and their pizzas and their pastas, and I had no problems. It's just not processed the same way food is in America. So when people come from other countries, they live here, they end up with what I call the American diseases or the diet, standard American diet. And that's the problem that we're seeing. And so then at that point in time, when somebody's lactose intolerant, they may end up with very irritable bowels and they're, having diarrhea. Everything that goes in comes right out, and it's also very uncomfortable for them. So all dairy comes off the plate, all wheat comes off the plate. And nowadays you can have gluten-free pastas and gluten-free breads and sprouted breads and, all those types of different options, and even sprouted tortillas. So yeah, when, being Hispanic, we had to go off tortillas. Now that's the one area I'm going to say about my daughter. It took me forever to get her off her tortillas.
I know. I love those tortillas. They're my favorite. I know it took forever. But I finally did it. I finally did. And then I just have some here and there. And I've actually gotten into, the almond tortillas as well, like almond flour ones and, different wraps. I'm actually playing around with some different recipes for wraps because I love it so much, for sure. But hey, back to that lactose. So there's even, is there not even we're not even really, not all beings are meant to ingest milk. So I was reading about the Irish. There's certain people in Ireland who actually have a specific gene that's adapted to milk and to processing cheeses and milk because they grew with the cows. They're like their family. They raise cows. They have an intimate relationship. So they've adapted to have this co-symbiotic relationship. But for instance, our people, Latin people, I come from Latin, Asian, Filipina, Toltec, and we didn't have cow relationships, nor did Hawaiian people have cow relationships. So we weren't people that drank milk. So it's actually not great for us to drink milk. We didn't really have an ancestral relationship with it.
Well, most people, as they grow up, they eventually will go off milk. And for me, myself, I really didn't like milk, even, let me say, after elementary school. My sister, because it is hard to digest and assimilate, my sister ended up with an overabundance of, they put vitamin D, I guess, some processed vitamin D in milk. And she had to go off milk simply because it was starting to damage her bones. It was just too much. She had an abundance of it because it's not being assimilated. She loved milk. And so no child should be, on milk. That's just not healthy for you. The breast milk, boom, that's the most healthiest. And they say, if you can breast milk for 2 years even, that's even more fabulous for the person.
For the child, as a baby.
I mean, that,
Then after the breast milk, no milk.
No milk after that. That's it. I mean, and I have to tell you, I have to zip it when I see people at the stores buying gallons of milk. And I'm like, this kills me.
Yeah, it is. So it is one of those things that, and gosh, water is amazing. Water is life. If we all could just drink more water, and if you need something, I love to put chlorophyll with the mint. We have access to that. Any of this stuff, you can. In fact, if anybody would like to find you or talk with you, where could they email you, or how can they go about doing that?
Okay, well, not to forget that, but I want to go back to water too, since you brought that up. You can find me, easiest to email me at Karen, Karen, the number 4, health. That's easy, Karen for health at Gmail.
Perfect. And so tell us about some water.
So this is a situation with water. Yes, we love our water. It has to be purified. It has to be good water, clean water. Michál has a Berkey. We got that years and years ago when we got our property. So that's been a long time, right? And I have a multi-pure. It's a little simpler because mine is attached to the sink and it just automatically converts the water and comes out another spigot. And so it has to be purified water, and I would love it if people would invest in some kind of a water filter system in their home instead of buying all this water in the plastic bottles. And that plastic is leaching into the water.
And then it's leaching into your body.
And so...
Not to mention the waste.
Oh, my gosh.
Holy cow.
It's heartbreaking.
And not to mention we don't recycle here in Hawaii anymore. Which has, been devastating. I tried to do a little bit of help on that myself and found it was such a huge problem.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard for me when I see people I would love if I could stand in the aisles at Costco and Walmart. Please don't buy bottled water. Try multi-pure. Try, a
Maybe you ought to
Berkey.
become a water filter. You should distribute filters.
I do distribute the multi-pure, but the Berkey, a lot of people have gotten turned on to that in the last
Oh
few
yeah,
years
and I
too.
have a guy who has a great connect for that too, actually, and he does a really nice job on one of those. So you could always reach out to Karen
So
on that.
waters.
But yeah, I actually noticed too, Mama, that I got a shower head with a filter on it, and it's made a huge difference. I can tell my skin is different since I started doing the filtered shower head, and that's just been more recent. And I'm so grateful that I did that because, and I've been more conscientious to not even rinse my mouth with water when I'm brushing my teeth because my bathroom is not purified like hers. I only have the Berkey. So I actually do purified water, put it in a little jar, put it in my bathroom, and then use that to rinse my mouth. So that way I'm not because if you just even put the water in your mouth, it's absorbing anything through your skin, through your mouth, even if you don't ingest it. I mean, it's, not as bad, but still, right?
Yes, and that's a really great idea. And I do have a multi-pure water filter system on my shower head too, and it does make a huge difference. A funny story: when I first built my house like 3 years ago, and I wanted the plumber to put that filter on, he goes, "Well, do you drink that water or what?" And again, I said, "Well, just so you know, your skin is your largest eliminative and assimilative organ. So what goes on your body goes in your body."
So when you think about that, what are you using for lotions, health products? What are you slathering on the self each day, right? So we're huge fans of oils. I actually make a butter. It's over there at Kohala Grown, Aloha Silk Body Butter. Which is why my skin looks so nice. But it's oils. It's coconut oil, shea butter, vitamin E, kukui nut. Oils are really our friend. But these moisturizers, anything, if you just in general, for me, and I mean, I will let you talk about this some more, is anything with more than 5 ingredients, it's probably not good for me to eat or put on my body.
If you can't pronounce it, don't eat it,
Or put it on you.
let alone on your body. And so women, unfortunately, ladies, big point, are more toxic than men when it comes to heavy metals and chemicals. And the reason why is
Beauty products.
lotions and potions and you name it, they're putting on their bodies. Makeup, etc. And there's a lot of natural solutions today. I mean, they just expanded. There's nothing you can't get natural, organic in the way of food or lotions and potions and health products, etc. Everything is available, and you can easily get it online on Amazon, wherever. There's a lot of organizations, companies that sell those, and it's just people go, well, it's more expensive. Well, in the long run, cancer's expensive.
Right.
That's expensive. You want to spend a lot of money trying to reverse cancer? That's expensive. Not to mention the other diseases that you have to, deal with if you are not taking care of yourself.
But you bring up expensive, and then I have to say that it's really not expensive to do simple. So you don't have to get a fancy organic potion. You could buy a huge vat of coconut oil from Costco that's organic, or, even olive oil or avocado oil, any oil really that's not any oil, but those high, but a coconut oil, and even putting that on your skin would be better than putting on a Vaseline or some sort of lotion. So it can be cheaper. And then eating wise, instead of buying sauces that have a bunch of sugars and stuff, it becomes simple. Enjoy the flavor of a potato. I was really relishing these last years. I really changed my diet even more so to reflect more health in the last 5 years. And I was just giving thanks so greatly that I can eat a potato or a turnip or just, a yam and feel like, wow, this is super good just by itself, which is amazing.
Yeah. And
So what happens to the
Gee,
taste
you
buds
know what?
when we eat that stuff?
I want to say about potatoes. Here, we have the purple potatoes. You don't have those in the mainland. And they are so healthy for you and so yummy. I love mashed purple potatoes instead of white potatoes, mashed potatoes. So I'm sorry, what was your question again?
What happens to your taste buds when
Oh,
you
you know,
utilize more of
that's a
the?
really hard thing for most people. They say, well, sugar, they're so addicted to sugar. But once and people are addicted to food in general, and the reason they are is because they're deficient. Your body's craving those nutrients, those vitamins, those minerals, those good fats. Your body's craving. But once we start feeding your body the right foods, start giving you everything that you need in the way of greens and plants and those types of things, your body gets starts not craving. The cravings just change. They go away. So let's go back to yeast and candida, what happened with me. So with an overgrown abundance of yeast or sugars in the gut, that means that's what I want. I want more. It's a microorganism, and it's saying, feed me, feed me.
It eats the sugar.
Yeah, and the craving's worse at night, by the way. And so what I do as a practitioner with herbal plant-based medicine is, first of all, we want to starve it, not feed it. And the second of all, we want to kill it. And so those two things, doing that will majorly change your taste buds for sweet stuff, as an example. Mm-hmm. And so that is the biggest thing. The culprits with regards to disease, by the way, when it comes to sugar, is diabetes. And so many people in America, even children now, have diabetes, and it's due to sugars. It's due to our processed foods, the white food. And for me personally,
Rice, breads.
oh my gosh.
And also a lot of sodas, like soda drinking, doing all the energy drinks, soda drinks, anything like that. And anything white, back to that, is turning into sugar, basically. It's processing out in your body as sugar, yeah.
Yeah, so everything white comes off the plate. That's usually one of my mottos. Everything white comes off the plate. And so in doing that and changing that diet, diabetes can be reversed. And so I love I used to have clients all the time, and I still do, that want to come in and just get off their meds for high cholesterol and their diabetic meds.
Beautiful.
And they just have to do the work. It doesn't take forever, And one of the things I do is help you by detoxifying your body through herbal medicine. And so, we go after it, we change it, we do cleanses, and that can make such a huge difference in how you feel, in the reversing your disease, in changing your weight, and just making an enormous amount of transition. It's not a hard transition. It's just a desire.
Right. When you want to be well, you can be well.
Right.
Right.
That's that desire. What do I desire?
If I want it, I can have it. So tell us a little bit more, in the audience, about like the live blood and some of the things you utilize in your practice.
So like I said, life and death begins in the gut. And in iridology, I wanted to say a couple more things. Foundationally, what's helpful for me is I get to look at the constitution. What were you coming the planet with, your genetic health? Because it helps me and helps you to talk about, okay, how quickly are we going to be able to shift your health? And so the constitution makes a huge difference. So that's the foundation of iridology. And then I look at the gut, and then we look at other things. And by the way, once we clear up the gut and we really work on that aspect, so many other aspects of your body will shift and change. And then maybe we don't have to work on that liver as much. We don't have to work on what's going on with the pancreas. We don't have to work on, cleaning up your lymphatic system, because we've really worked on that gut. And the gut is the second brain. Mm-hmm. It is the second brain. And if you're having any issues with memory, even if I don't care if you're 40, 50, or 60, let alone into your 70s, we can reverse those memory issues once we work on your gut health. Because the gut is the second brain, and the gut is sending messages as well to the brain, then the brain sending them to the gut. So that's my take on life and death begins in the gut. Now let's shift to, I have a microscope. Every girl should own a microscope. Anyway, so I have a microscope, and the microscope is a very high-powered microscope that allows me to look at live blood cells under the microscope. And what does that tell me? The first and foremost thing is, are your cells sticking together, or are they moving and they're energized and they're oxygenated? And that is also a reflection of your pH. So, a little note on pH, those two go hand in hand. If your cells are sticking together, you're probably either over alkaline or acidic.
Now, and talking about pH, give a little background on that. Like what happens when you're either, does the body not able to absorb? What takes place?
Well, I like a good example is like, well, if you went into a hot tub and you know how everybody wants to change the pH of the hot tub and they make sure it's clean. If it's got, microbes in it and it's got fungus among us, are you going to get in the hot tub? No. You change the pH so once it's clean, yeah, you can get in the water. What about the pH of a fish tank? Fish are dying. It's all murky. It's horrible. Well, you don't change keep putting in new fish. You change the pH. And otherwise, that environment is toxic. It's toxic to the fish. It's toxic if you get in a, swampy pool of, garbage from the hot tub. Not to mention your body is a toxic waste dump. If you're over alkaline, you're looking at fungus and mungus, microbial activity, parasites. People don't want to talk about parasites, worms, things like that. All those things exist. It depends on what we're eating. We're living in a very toxic environment. Heavy metals, heavy metals, chemicals, mold. That's a big one I treat here in Kohala. So if those are if you have those, it could be affecting your. Normally speaking, the easiest way affects people. Just saw a lady this afternoon. Your energy level. Oh, I'm so tired all the time. I just feel lethargic. I don't have my get up and go. Well, she was loaded with mold and candida. So we get rid of those. You're on smooth sailing. So many things can shift in your body.
Yeah, and you talk about the cleansing. I mean, obviously, my doctor here, we've activated cleansing for the last 25 years. It's like yearly cleansing. And whatever is required, but we check. I mean, I get workups regularly, see what's needed, and then do it. Sometimes I've traveled a lot, so I've picked up parasites. I get back every time I traveled out of the country and did nonprofit work. I came home, did a workup, and then would put myself on get to be on a cleanse because, we are just, unless you're being really careful, it's easy. It's actually easy to become toxic quickly.
Yeah, unfortunately, especially in the mainland, it's such a toxic environment that we live in the world. We live in a less toxic environment here in terms of our clean air and even our lifestyle. Toxicity
More simple
be
foods.
due to our lifestyle too, and to the people we hang around, and to the things we expose ourselves to, and our relationships are really important. So if you're not happy in your life, something's going on. So we work, my daughter and I. And so what I do is have her often look at somebody else and their health because she does a fabulous job with hands-on healing energy work. So everything is energy, everything. So if she can see them first and do a complete therapy treatment on them and, shift their body energetically and balance them out and heal the body with removing the harmful things that she actually can see in her, in her work, then when I see them, so much can be revealed as far as less things that I have to deal with and work with on a physiological level. And the reason why is we're just vibration. We're just vibration. We're just energy. Everything is vibration. And so that's what I say, Michál, you got them first, girl. You do your magic and work on them with the kind of work that you do in the hands-on healing, and then I take it from there.
Yeah, and it's nice. It's fun to be able to tag team people also and have, to me, because it's the body, mind, spirit. We have to do all of the pieces. You got to, what am I putting in the body? What am I putting in my mind? How am I navigating my spiritual self? So it's a 3-part system. And so that's how we get to embody the living light. So yeah, it's really fun. I'm really grateful that I get to work with my mama and that we have this ability to do this. It's really very, very special and very unique. And I feel really blessed and honored that I get to do this. So tell us a little more.
Oh, that's really great from segue it back off of Michál's work, which is vibrational energy. That's what I get to see under the microscope. So when life and death begins in the gut, but we live and die at the cellular level. So then I get to look at the cells, the red blood and the white blood cells. And the other things I can see is what kind of level, these are the more pop things that people understand. Inflammation. Disease begins with inflammation. So inflammation is the precursor to all diseases. So I can see inflammation in the live blood. And I only address the things that I'm actually looking at and analyzing through iridology, through live and dry blood cell analysis, through pH analysis. So those are my maps. So that's the chemistry work. That's the technical work that I do. And then we move into the more what I want to call, the esoterical work, which is the food and the herbs that you can take and what your body will take and what it can utilize.
And then also what you brought up earlier, which is for a lot of people, our attachment to our foods and like how we've grown up and the ancestral, like, well, that's what I eat. That's how I do it. That's what we do. Like we do that a lot. So, kind of that gets into our emotions actually. And that goes back to like healing the vibrational health and am I being attached to something and why? Does it make me feel more whole, more loved, like I'm okay? What does that do? And can I give myself that feeling from somewhere else? And so that's kind of some of the work that I get into is, where am I getting, am I loved, am I whole? That goes hand in hand with this because you can see the marriage between what I'm eating and why am I eating is connected to my emotionality and where my head is.
And that's why it makes it so beautiful for us to be able to work together because she makes my end of the job easier. People are more receptive and they're more in wholeness if they continue to do that work with her. And that's what's really beautiful so that we can make those transitions because it is body, mind, and spirit. And the whole thing is vibration. So I can see bacteria in the blood. The level of bacteria has got to be cleared out. The level of viruses have got to be cleared out. All those things are things that have to, that are harmful to the body. I can see things like, microbes, heavy metals, crystals, which are, toxic to the body. They're chemicals and heavy metals. So there's just so many things that doctors don't look at when they look at the blood. And again, I'm looking at it live, not a blood report, which doesn't tell any of those things. So the whole premise of my business is let's clean up the environment. Once we clean up the environment, like your car, you don't go in and get more oil, keep pouring more oil in. You go out and get an oil change, clean it up. And once you clean it up, then we can see what's left and what do we put in that new vessel.
And then I say I'm in the business of building lighthouses. So it's a lighthouse and a really clean environment and it's beautiful and we get to have fun and move forward in this immaculate, beautiful time as empowered beings. That's the goal. That's the point. And with that, we're going to take a quick break. Okay, we are back. You're listening to KNKRLP 96.1 FM Kohala. This is Intuitive Talk Story. I'm Michál Anna and talking with my mama, special guest, iridologist, herbalist nutritionist, Karen Alvarado. So take us away, Karen. Where do you want to go next, mama?
Well, we talked about iridology and live blood, and then dry blood I do too, but what I'm basically looking for in dry blood is the level of free radical damage, so we can address that. And that's segues now into food. So when I see all of those variables in terms of the pH, I test acid alkalinity, look at the live and dry, do iridology, then and now I segue into food. And so I have a pH food chart, eating 80% alkaline foods. And basically, that's plants and fruits.
So what happens to a being when you're either over alkaline? Like what are the benefits of being like? Tell us a little bit more about pH. If someone's not familiar with what that even really, we know like obviously I want to be in the right pH. I want to have a good environment. But what are some symptoms that if I'm of over alkaline?
That's usually when people are having really poor bowel movements, or like a constipation, those kinds of things, maybe acne, maybe rashes. Because they are basically dealing with a murky or a toxic environment. And so those symptoms they could end up with dis-ease, such as autoimmune diseases. That's pretty, again, life and death begins in that gut. And if you got parasites and heavy metals and chemicals eating through your small intestine, that's the basis of beginning that autoimmune disease.
So you had said a minute ago that, when we want to eat more alkaline, that's plants and vegetables. But what does that mean? That seems confusing. What's over alkaline? How did I get over alkaline?
Well, I explain that a little bit more in terms of the chemistry of that. And what happens is our body is a buffering system. There's 4 minerals, the calcium, magnesium, potassium, and sodium, that are our buffering minerals. And when those are depleted, you go into acidosis, first of all. And in acidosis, now you're in an inflammatory state. And inflammation, any disease that just says itis, diabetes, itis, or carditis. Anything that ends with an itis means inflammation. Mm-hmm. So when people are eating way too much processed foods, acid foods, literally your buffering system gets depleted. And guess what happens next? Now your body's producing ammonia, moving you now into a different buffering system that causes alkalosis or over-alkaline environment. And that takes longer to reverse than acidosis, because now we have to not only clean up the environment, but then we have to do it, change that over-alkaline basis and bring your buffering system back into balance.
So are you saying that it kind of goes, you go to acidosis and then, so being over-acidic, then the next level would be over-alkaline?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so that can be also, like you were just saying about the yeast, and those contribute. Parasites in the yeast also contribute to that over alkalinity.
Well, the longer you are staying in a pH imbalance, the more issues start coming, coming into that environment. As an example, that fish tank doesn't just become, murky and ugly, and in the first, let's just say, initially, it starts little by little, and you start seeing it change.
Right, and you don't clean it, then hey.
Then it's worse. Now your fish are dying. So what's happening is that happening at the cellular level. People just don't see the death that's going on inside. They can see it on their skin when they get cut or messed up, but they can't, and it heals, but they can't see what's happening inside. Mm-hmm. So I love it when people come to see me and I have them now, you look in the microscope. I let them look so they can see visibly what's going on. Now, this is the really fun part. As they change their diet, as we do the detoxification, as we start, let's say we're working with somebody who's diabetic, and then they're potentially, for the most part, most of the diabetics I've worked with are in candida, have candida, too much sugars. And so we clean up that environment. We start getting them to eat superfoods, which the main thing I see is that we cannot get enough greens in our daily diet to offset what's necessary to balance the body. So we do these plant-based protein drinks that are so healthy. And I like everybody to start their day with it. So Michál and I have trying to get people on these natural superfoods that they start their day with. You're going to feel so much better just starting your day with something healthy, not a bowl of cereal, not pancakes and eggs and bacon. I'm sorry, folks. That's just, we love that food, but little by little, I don't even crave that kind of food. And when I eat it, I feel horrible.
Mm-hmm, me too. And I was making donuts. I still do make some superfood donuts. You can catch me at some markets here and there. But I was making a joke treats for the diabetes in a fun way because they're sugar-free, gluten-free, sugar-free. So we can, you don't have to it doesn't have to be sugary in order to be yummy and delicious. It can be delicious with just a little bit of maple syrup, maybe, or a little bit of fig or a date. You can add something like that. And then as your sweetener, if you need a little something. And then you can really have pretty nutritious, you can get your sweets in so many other ways. So, yeah, it's fun to change it up.
Yeah, the whole thing. So I give everybody a pH balance chart, food chart, to make their selections with in terms of what they want to. And what I usually do, if it's not urgent, if you're not in a state of, wow, we got to make these changes now, or, I've got 90 days to live or something, or even 6 months, then, it's not a race. It's a walk. Let's eliminate one thing at a time. We're not going to just like clean the slate tomorrow. You go and shock. So maybe we reduce the amount of coffee you're drinking. Maybe we take away white bread and give it with some sprouted grain or gluten-free breads. We do one thing at a time to bring that person back into balance and to, see, and I tell them, within 6 months, let alone a year, you're going to be a different person. Many people see results like in the first 90 days because we're doing significant things that shift the body in terms of removing those harmful aspects that are creating havoc on the body. So eating right for your health is absolutely critical if you want to have a vivacious, healthy lifestyle going forward. Getting out there, and I call it living like in the people in the blue zones, where they're walking, they're doing their own yard work, they're planting, they're doing all these things, fun things. They're maybe still swimming, canoeing. I play pickleball. I mean, those are the kinds of fun things you should still be doing at my age.
Mm-hmm. And, I was talking to, your mom, my grandma. I was talking to her yesterday. And, I just got to say I was so inspired because she's 96, by the way. And she's like, oh, yeah. And she's got dementia as well. But she still remembers that every day she goes, I get up and I ride the bike. She has a stationary bike in her back room, but she watches little TV and rides the bike. And she said, I ride the bike every day when I get up, and I ride that bike 15 minutes every day before I go to bed because I figure if I can't use my legs, then I won't be able to get around, and then that's the end of me. And you're exactly right. I read something recently that said, your youth is in your legs. And that's so true. So we got to keep moving. You got to keep moving your legs. Get that bike, stationary bike rolling if you've got one. Go on a bike ride. Go on a walk. Go on a swim. Yeah, dance. Dance around. I'm so grateful that dance is in my life because it has really kept me young. The fact that I dance and move at the amount I do, it's a huge asset to my life.
And she's got
so
an
grateful.
Amazing, strong body as a result of that. And she eats well too. But the combination of everything she's done, yeah, this girl looking good. And
Well,
bikini still.
Woo! Well, and you put it in there because you put me in ice skating as a child. You really gave me a lot of tools, dance. She's an amazing mother and gave me a lot of resources early on so I could thrive. So what are some other ways we could thrive, and what are some foods we could eat? So we've got about 5 minutes here before we're going to wrap it up. What would you like to share with the audience as we're in our last 5 minutes here?
Well, the main thing is love yourself. Be easy on yourself and do one thing at a time. Make a commitment to just do one thing at a time and change. And you have solutions and alternatives. I mean, I had none back in the day. And so you have so many alternatives to what you can substitute it with today. I don't care what it is that you're putting in your mouth. You can definitely do alternatives, alternative diets, alternative foods. And so, it's just a matter of how am I going to get those down? Not everybody wants to eat a great big salad. So that's when we talk about the superfood protein drinks. There's my 12 servings of plants right there. Everybody loves fruit, so that's an easy one. And just replace, your sweet treats with fruit. What fruit do you love? We have an abundance of fruit here on the island. So we're so blessed to be able to have that. And, you can even make, I pull oranges and make my own orange juice. And I just got through drying bananas from our banana trees. And we freeze them and put them in our blender and with our protein drinks. So, yeah, we are blessed to have, the abundance of fruit. So do one thing at a time. And then I'm going to say life is, again, starts with not what you eat, but what you assimilate. So it's not just what you eat, even if you're eating great foods, salads, and all these other foods, it's assimilation. And so I always look at the digestive system because everything is turning to putrefaction in that tummy if it's not digesting right. So everybody, I mean, I can't tell you how many, 80% of the people out there are running around with acid conditions in their stomach, inflammatory conditions where they're taking acid suppressors. That is so dangerous. And doctors are not calling their patients on it. And so, I mean, the acid indigestion and the belching and the burping and the, acid control is out of control. And that can be reversed. That can be reversed. And that bacteria, when you have something like that, that's a lethal, I'm telling you, lethal bacteria in your stomach can cause esophageal cancer, intestinal cancers, and I, for one, take it serious and get rid of it.
And it's really there's so many options and so many ways for us to move forward in our health if we just take a look at it and make some different choices. Yeah, and that's, I think, what I hear you saying is get it done. Use alternatives. Make it happen, get the stuff out, and make changes. And we really do see the difference in your gut health determines, everything. I feel so much better since I've gotten that glyphosate out. And it's like simple things. It's not as hard as you think, actually, to do all this stuff. It's been made to seem hard, but it really isn't. The health model that I think that we talk about is the one where you pay your people to keep you well rather than paying them when you're sick. I was just talking with my client last night about this, and we were saying that because my client pays me to keep him well. And he said, that's what I pay you for, to keep me well. So I don't have to go to the doctor. I said, that's the way it's supposed to be. Like in the Eastern medicine, that's the way it is. You pay your doctors to keep you well. You don't really pay them when you're sick. Because now I have a problem. I mean, I pay you to keep me feeling good. So we want to feel good, and it is easier to feel good than you think. So if you're ready to feel good, again, what is the way they can reach out to you if they'd like to?
Karen, the number 4, health@gmail.com. And I do have a sliding scale. I just want to let people know that. So you're not going to be spending an arm and a leg with me. And we look at that I do that with each individual, look at what they can manage in terms of their budgets. And so that's really important. And you can even come in for a simple ion detox. It's a foot bath, and it removes all kinds of toxins from the body. And then
so
I
cool.
can sort of talk to you about what's going on there with the body. And that's $20. I mean, there's so many little things that you can do that are simple for our bodies. And that's very easy. You're just sitting there getting a detox for 30 minutes.
So there's lots of resources available, and I'm just so grateful to turn our community onto you and to them knowing about your work. Karen Alvarado, nutritionist, iridologist, herbalist. It's been a real pleasure. Our hour is up. It's been so great having you here today. And we'll have you back on the show and in maybe, to talk about maybe some specific things, some topics. I think that'd be really fun to do. So thanks again for coming and sharing your wisdom.
Thank you so much for having me. It was fun.
Yay.
This is near and dear to my heart, so I love it.
Yeah, I know, right? We just love feeling good and love to share. So okay, everybody, I hope you have a beautiful day. Thank you for spending this hour with us, and hope it's been informative and inspiring, and you're feeling inspired to navigate your health to the next level and feel amazing in your body and powderful. So, yeah, much love to you all, and have a beautiful day. Hui ho.